Hare Krishna. Okay. So reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the third canto, 11th chapter, verse 38. Oops. Kaloyam dvi parardakyo nimesha upacharyate avyakritasya nantasya hyanadir jagadatmanaha. So even though we're kind of like in different areas, it's good to repeat. I'll say the synonyms, you can say the synonyms, and then again we'll chant to, say the verse all together, even though it's just good to repeat and to hear. So Kala, eternal, but you can just do it like you don't have to you can do it, but it doesn't have to be transmitted. It's for our personal benefit. So Kala, eternal time, I am this, as measured by Brahma's duration of life. Dvi pararda kyaha, measured by two halves of Brahma's life. Nimeshaha, less than a second. Upacharyate is so measured, avyakritasya, of one who is unchanged, anantasya, of the unlimited, he certainly, anadehi, of the beginningless, jagadat manaha, of the soul of the universe. And let's go back to the Sanskrit of the verse again. We can just say this together. Kalo yam dvi paryardakyo nimesha upacharyate avyakrita syanantasya hyanadir jagadat manaha. And then now to the translation. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The duration of the two parts of Brahma's life, as above mentioned, is calculated to be equal to one nimesha, less than a second, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unchanging and unlimited and is the cause of all causes of the universe. Purport by His Divine Grace. The great sage Maitreya has given a considerable description of the time of different dimensions, beginning from the atom up to the duration of the life of Brahma. Now he attempts to give some idea of the time of the unlimited personality of Godhead. He just gives a hint of his unlimited time by the standard of the life of Brahma. The entire duration of the life of Brahma is calculated to be less than a second of the Lord's time, and it is explained in the Brahma Samhita 548 as follows. Yasya eka nivesati Yasya niswasita kalamatava lambya jivanti loma vilaja jagatanandanataha Vishnurmahan Saihayasya kala vishesho Govindamari Purusam Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, whose plenary portion is Mahavishnu. All the heads of the innumerable universes, the Brahmas, live only by taking shelter of the time occupied by one of his breaths. The impersonalists do not believe in the form of the Lord, and thus they would hardly believe in the Lord sleeping. Their idea is obtained by a poor fund of knowledge. They calculate everything in terms of a man's capacity. They think that the existence of the Supreme is just the opposite of active human existence. Because the human being has senses, the Supreme must be without senses. This is the thinking of the impersonal. Because the human being has a form, the Supreme must be formless. And because the human being sleeps, the Supreme must not sleep. Srimad Bhagavatam, however, does not agree with such impersonalists. It is clearly stated herein that the Supreme Lord rests in Yoga Nidra, as previously discussed. And because he sleeps, naturally he must breathe, and the Brahma Samhita confirms that within his breathing period, innumerable Brahmas take birth and die. There is a complete agreement between Srimad Bhagavatam and the Brahma Samhita. Eternal life is never lost along with the life of Brahma. It continues, but it has no ability to control the Supreme Personality of Godhead because the Lord is the controller of time. In the spiritual world, there is undoubtedly time, but it has no control over activities. Time is unlimited, and the spiritual world is also unlimited, since everything there exists on the absolute plane. So we can go back here to the translation only. Translation. The duration of the two parts of Brahma's life, as above mentioned, is calculated to be equal to 1 nimesha, less than a second, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unchanging and unlimited and is the cause of all causes of the universe. Om Magyantimirandasya Janana Sakalaya Chakchum Litam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So everybody please chant Srila Prabhupada's pranams. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vaskatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I offer my humble obeisances to each and every one of you, to all Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. So I have kind of two parts in mind today, because we are 2 days away from Krishna Janmashtami. So prior to Janmashtami, I'd like to start, moving into that mood. And, that involves recollections of the words from previous acharyas, particularly our acharya, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. So I will say a few words about this particular verse, although there's a lot of words that could be said. But in consideration of the time constraints, I will kind of break it down a bit. So in this chapter so far, it's really fascinating. It gets into some really technical things that coincide with we could say, our mundane knowledge in terms of science, which is very interesting. Because here, our mundane science is like what, a few decades, a few hundred years, maybe a few centuries in some cases. But the Bhagavatam is timeless in itself. It is the Supreme Lord who has risen to give us the knowledge that we all yearn after in order to be successful in our lifetimes, no matter which lifetime we're in or which yuga we may be in. And that knowledge in the Bhagavatam just carries through all the yugas of all times. And it's very fascinating. You just look up, like, it talks about the atom. You look up about the atom, you found out when and where it was discovered. I mean, discovered, okay, it was there. So by saying discovered the atom means the person found out about its existence. So the Bhagavatam is the full text of all descriptions of knowledge, including the theory of atomism. And the atom is the minute, subtle form of eternal time. So time and space are two correlative terms. Time is measured in terms of it covering a certain space of atoms. And standard time is calculated in terms of the movement of the sun. Like we have lunar time and we have solar time. So the movement of the sun, the time is covered by the sun passing over an atom, is calculated as atomic time. And the complete calculation of creation, maintenance, dissolution is measured in terms of the circulation of the total planetary systems, of which we don't even have a clue how many of these systems are out there, but the circulation of the total planetary systems until the end of creation is known as supreme kala, supreme time. So in the days of Vedic civilization, there was no dearth of knowledge in physics, chemistry, or higher mathematics. And neither did they even need books to record all this. They had longer lifespans and they had pure, clear intelligence. They hear something and they got it. Just by oral reception, they got it. Measurements were calculated in different ways, as simply as could be done in terms of using what they had, but they were accurate, they were precise. The subject matter of physics and chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, time and space dealt with in the verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, they're certainly interesting to students of the particular topic. But Prabhupada concludes by saying, as far as we are concerned, we cannot explain them very thoroughly in terms of technical knowledge. The subject is summarized by the statement that above all the different branches of knowledge is the supreme control of Kala, the plenary representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing exists without him, and therefore everything, how wonderful it may appeal to our meager knowledge. It's only the work of the magical wand of the Supreme Lord. These are Prabhupada's words. Only the work of the magical wand of the Supreme Lord. Just like Prabhupada gave this example, a child steps on the like in front of one of those doors where you step on the mat and the door opens automatically, like at supermarkets or other places. So the child does not understand there's some mechanics behind that. They just step on the mat and the door opens and they think it's, wow, that's amazing, that's magical, they're fascinated. But it's only because of their undeveloped knowledge that they're thinking, wow, this is, amazing and magical. So in the same way, we have undeveloped, limited knowledge. And therefore, when there's some wondrous act of the Supreme Lord, we're just thinking, Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, okay, it's incredible. But actually, what is incredible to the Supreme Lord? Um, Everything he does is incredible if you think about it. And yet, for him, it is nothing. It's like a plaything, you know. So it also mentions giving a dimension, lava, of a lava. So now we know about from this Chitamrita, we also hear this word, lava. Now, in this Bhagavatam, I forget which verse, but this lava is mentioned, and the sun enlivens all living entities with his unlimited heat and light, and he diminishes the duration of life of all living entities in order to release them from their illusion of material attachment. And he enlarges the path of elevation to the heavenly kingdom. So part of the description of time includes this lava. And in this part of the Bhagavatam, the lava was described as 8/46 of a second. Lava, Vatra, lava, Sparta. Now, when you come into the Chaitanya Chaitamrita and Majid 22:54, there is that verse that probably everybody is familiar with, more or less. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastrikaya, Lavamatra, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Daya Hoya. So the translation, the verdict of all revealed scriptures is that even by a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can attain all success. And there's a short purport, and it says, according to, and this is Prabhupada, according to astronomical calculations, a lava is 1/11th of a second. Just like we talk about trying to give some idea of the size of the soul, 1/10,000th of a part of, the tip of a hair, 1/10,000th of the tip of a hair. Even there's different sizes of hair. Some people have thicker hairs, some people have less, but whether it's a thick hair or not a thick hair, 1/10,000th, divide that piece of hair, that's incredibly small. And that is the lava, smallness. So those who have reached the highest perfectional stage of mystic power and can see everything in the past, the present, and the future, and those persons are called Trikalagya. They have knowledge, past, present, and future. And in the same way, devotees of the Lord, they see everything clearly that is revealed in the scriptures. So, we're reading these things, and they're quite detailed and quite extraordinary. And here we're being told, we find out, this is from the Bhagavatam, from the same chapter, that the devotees of the Lord, they can see everything clearly in the revealed scriptures. And the devotees of Lord Krishna can very easily understand the science of Krishna, as well as the situation of the material and spiritual creations. But I'm sure there's probably a few of us here that are like, I don't know, I don't get this, But it doesn't matter. It's not really that important if we get those details. What's important is that we get the need of remembering and glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Satya millennium, complete execution of religious principles prevailed. And then gradually the principles of religion decreased by one part in each of the subsequent millenniums. Little by little it was eroded. In other words, at present, there's only one part of religion and three parts irreligion. And therefore, Prabhupada concludes that people in this age are not very happy. Every living being lives for 100 years in terms of the time in the different planets for different entities. So, our 100 years is not earthly years, has a different duration of the years, the 100 years of the higher planetary systems, what to speak of the lower planetary systems. These 100 years of life, they're not equal in every case. So the longest duration of 100 years belongs to Brahma. And although the life of Brahma is very long, it also expires in course of time. So Brahma, he's also afraid of his death, and thus he's performing devotional service to the Lord, just to release him from the clutches of the illusory energy, to release himself. So animals, Prabhupada then he was giving some indication how animals, of course, have no sense of responsibility. So what is this responsibility? Is that we should become fully absorbed in remembering and glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada then moves on to say, even humans who have developed a sense of responsibility, they just while away their valuable time without engaging in devotional service to the Lord. They live merrily, unafraid of impending death. Yes, we are supposed to be fearless, abhyam. We are supposed to be that way. But this foolish fearlessness in relation to our actual life and the need, our human life and the need of the human life, that so-called fearlessness is actually foolishness. And Prabhupada said it's the madness of human society. The madman has no responsibility in life. And, or, even like you can say that of a small child, But a human who does not develop a sense of responsibility before he dies is no better than a madman who tries to enjoy material life happily without concern for his future. Probably we've known people, we might have been in the same mood ourselves, that, hey, this one life, just enjoy it while you can. Sooner or later you'll die. And they're afraid of that death because they don't know what death means, but they cover over that fear with so-called pursuit of so-called happiness, so-called happiness without any concern for the future, not understanding what the future may be in terms of birth and rebirth. So the first half of Brahma, the first duration of Brahma's life, it's already over. And the second half of his life, we're now experiencing, it's current. And the millennium which followed the first Brahma millennium, it's known as the Padma Kalpa, because in that millennium, that was when the lotus flower grew out of the navel reservoir of water of the personality of Godhead. So, this is such an extraordinary experience to be able to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, to hear it and read it in association of devotees, which is recommended, and to have the realization that this extraordinary gift of human life has a purpose and a meaning. And this Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us the key and the answer. Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, giving us the keys to the mysteries of human life. So that's just a few words on that topic. And then I wanted to speak a bit about Janmashtami. If I can do that and get through before the time ends. But Srila Prabhupada, interestingly enough, there are lectures by Prabhupada on Janmashtami, and his lectures are not full of, cute little pastimes. He's giving us elements of truth coming from the Bhagavatam or from the Gita so that we can understand what is Krishna, why is he here, what are we supposed to be doing, and what is the meaning of Janmashtami. So in the Bhagavad Gita 4:7, it's explained because he wants to reclaim the fallen souls, and there are millions and trillions, unlimited fallen souls within this material world. So he goes everywhere. Yada yada hi dhamasya glanirvavati bharata tadatmanam shrijamyaham. And as soon as there is a discrepancy in the understanding of eternal life, Krishna appears. Krishna teaches. He is, even as we are here speaking and hearing, Krishna is teaching somewhere. There's so many innumerable universes. And just like Krishna appears at Janmashtami, in this universe, and then immediately in another universe, there is a Janmashtami. And immediately in another universe, there's Janmashtami. And therefore, it is called Nitya Lila. Nitya Lila means that Janmashtami is always going on. His Govardhan Lila is always going on. Everything, what he displayed when he was present, it is always going on. Just like the sun. And Prabhupada, he gave a time, like now it is past 7, and now 6:30. There is sun somewhere. It's not because the sun is past 6:30 in this country, therefore there is no more 6:30. 6:30 is going on somewhere else. And similarly, it is not that because Krishna has now finished his Janmashtami, wherever we are, that there's no more Janmashtami. Janmashtami is going on. This is Krishna's Leela. So a very kind of spectacular type of meditation. We're like, can we get through the day of Janmashtami? And then suddenly it's over. And of course, for us, it's not over because the next day is Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. But it's not over. At 12 o'clock, Krishna appears, and then he does the whole thing again. Naham veder natapasya na danena na chayaval. Chage yaya. Sakya evam vido dastum dristavanasi yatta. And Krishna says, the form you are seeing, of course, he's talking here to Arjuna. This is 1153. The form you're seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It's not by these means that one can see me as I am. And in the purport, Prabhupada was explaining Krishna first appeared before his parents, Devaki and Vasudeva, in a four-handed form. And then he transferred himself into a two-handed form because Devaki was like in a state of shock and anxiety. Like, if they come and see you, they're going to immediately take you and kill you like all the other children. So she was begging him, please, please, so just give a normal form. So this mystery is very difficult to understand for those who are atheists or are devoid of devotional service. So for scholars who have simply studied Vedic literature by way of speculation or from mere academic interest, Krishna is not easy to understand. And nor is he to be understood by persons who officially go to the temple to offer worship, out of some duty. We must go, we will do. They make the visit, but can't understand Krishna as he is. Krishna is only understood by the path of devotional service, as explained by Krishna himself in the next verse. So this was 1143, and then he says in 1153, and then he says in 1154, my dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Now, I'm sure we've all had experiences of going somewhere and you start describing it, what you saw, what you experienced, and somebody else is kind of squinting and say, that's not how I saw it, that's not how I experienced it. You know, every one of us has our own mindset, our own preferences, so we always kind of see things through our own mental filters. So Krishna is explaining how to remove these mental filters, because actually they're impediments to seeing him by undivided devotional service. So people may wonder if God is everywhere, and if God is in everything, why do we celebrate his appearance? Like, why do we come to the temple? If he's always appearing every day, isn't he? You know, every day at every moment. So then, you know, there's Bhagavad Gita 861, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hridayasi Arjuna Tishtatahi. I am seated in the heart of every living being. So it's also explained that the supersoul exists everywhere. For one who sees me everywhere and everything in me, for him I am never lost, and he is never lost to me. So this verse from the Gita explains that Janmashtami is not simply a celebration to commemorate the historical appearance of Sri Krishna when he incarnated on earth to display his divine pastimes some 5,000 years ago. I mean, it's a fact he appeared in his original transcendental form as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva to display his divine pastimes for the purification of the world. But he didn't appear simply to establish some particularly historical event to be celebrated. Why he appeared, that was for our benefit. In Kali Yuga, our mind is always distracted. So we should try to create, as far as possible, a peaceful, sacred atmosphere with as little distraction as possible. And that's one reason we come to the temple. Because, you know, in our own homes, we may have a temple with deities, but along with that, there's so many distractions in our home. Everything is there to remind us of our body. This belongs to my baby. This belongs to me. This belongs to my husband or wife. This belongs to my other children. I have to do that. I have to do this. Maybe I should cook. Maybe I should clean. You know, you pick up your beads and immediately you start to remember, oh, I have to do this. I forgot to do that. You know, so there's distractions. So then Prabhupada explains, it's necessary to have a beautiful temple where we can come and we can hear and chant the glories of the Lord without distraction. So I can kind of hear the background. What do you mean, no distraction in the temple? Sometimes it's like the most distracting place, but the temple is meant to be a very sanctified atmosphere where anyone can easily enter into association of devotees. So it's incumbent upon each one of us to be part of that mood and atmosphere. After all, if someone comes for the common person of purpose of glorifying the Lord, so if we come for that common purpose, there's no distraction amongst ourselves. If everybody has that same purpose in mind. Srila Prabhupada actually called the temple a neutral place where everyone can congregate. Story behind that, but I want to kind of like go through this little narration. So it's important, really important, to create and maintain an atmosphere in the temple where there are not all kinds of distractions, to take our minds away from the message of Krishna consciousness. So historically, yes, Krishna did appear, but why did he appear? And he appeared for the purpose of establishing the goal of life in the hearts of all living beings. Although he's everywhere and he is in everything, he specifically took birth in this world in his divine human-like form to attract our minds so that we could see him everywhere and in everything, so that we could serve his lotus feet and love him everywhere and in everything. Prabhupada once mentioned how he, came in the deity form just so we could dress him and decorate him. And Prabhupada said, if he came in his vast form, all the cloth factories in the world could not supply sufficient cloth to dress him. So he has come in a form that is just the size for us to personally worship. So the spirit of Janamastami, it's in coming together to learn the science of purifying our hearts so that Krishna will actually appear to us. Like we're there, we're seeing the deity, and then the little background in our, okay, this is Krishna, this is Krishna. But we want to get past the background tape where there's an automatic spontaneous of Krishna. When we see him, here's Krishna. We don't have to remind ourselves. Just like if we see a friend or a parent, a husband or wife, you don't have to remind yourself. There's that person. Krishna is a person, a supreme person, and we want to be able to see him instantaneously. So the spirit of Janmashtami is coming together to learn that science of purifying our hearts, so Krishna will actually appear to us. He'll appear in the deity forms of Shri Radha and Krishna, personally standing before us, and we'll see him like that. So theoretically, with good sentiments, we accept the philosophy that this is God standing here before me, but theoretically, we're not seeing the full extent and beauty of his glorious manifestation. He reveals himself according to how we approach him. According to the gratitude of devotional service and surrender, Krishna reveals himself to us. We should not be approaching Krishna for our pleasure, rather approaching Krishna for his pleasure. And to the extent that that is our consciousness, to that extent, Krishna reveals himself. So we have the incredible example of Devaki and Vasudeva. In order to have Krishna as their child, Krishna put them through a situation where they had to suffer the loss of 6 consecutive children who they love very much as a mother and father. Sometimes we see when a mother or father loses a child, even great devotees, tears of love and anguish are shed to the loss of that dear and precious child. Especially the mother's heart is affected. And there was Devaki, 1 son, 2 sons. She carried out each one of these children to a full term within her womb with great expectations of nursing them, raising, caring for them, and loving these children. And each one of them, right in front of their eyes, was brutally murdered by Kamsa, Devaki's own brother. And still, Devaki continued to have children. So why is this? If you knew your child would be killed right in front of your eyes, would you dare to have another one? Would you have ever wondered why? Have you ever wondered why Devaki continued having children? She saw the first one killed, and yet she had a second one, knowing it would also be killed. And she had the third and the fourth one. And what an incredible agonizing tragedy it was in her life to carry a child, to give birth, and then see the child murdered. Even an ordinary departure of a child crushes the heart of a mother. Like, my mother was in her 70s, and actually 80s, and my younger brother, departed, and she could barely bear it. It was her second son. When I was small. My younger brother, small means I was, under 4 years old. And my younger brother was just like, a little before 4, a little 3.5 maybe. And my little brother departed unexpectedly. So that was in the 40s. And every single year on the date of his birthday, my mom would say, today, Walter would have been such and such an age. She could never forget that child. So after the 5th one, she had another one. And don't think she was having all these children because she could not control her senses. She had perfect control over her senses. She had not the slightest little interest in sensual pleasures. But she knew the plan of God. She knew that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, would appear as her 8th son. And it was therefore as a service to Krishna, she had all these children, even though she had to physically and emotionally suffer the loss of these same children. Don't think she didn't weep and cry. Bhaktas are not such hard-hearted people. Bhaktas are very sensitive and soft-hearted people. And she was willing to go through all this austerity and pain just to prepare the way for Krishna's appearance. It was a prophecy. It was the will of God that the 8th son would be the Lord himself. So it was in full surrender and humility. She had child after child after child. Like another word, she manifested total selflessness, totally giving herself for the pleasure of God. Most people approach God, what will you do for me? What will you give me? Give me this, give me that. Devaki was not at all thinking like this. She was selflessly going through the most painful conditions of life while being incarcerated in order to serve the will of the Lord. What could be more painful than seeing your newly born child brutally murdered right in front of your eyes? Like, you could lose your business, lose your reputation, lose your home, but that can never compare to the painful condition of losing one children. Nothing more painful. And Devaki willingly accepted this pain consecutively for 6 times because it was her service to Krishna. So Devaki exemplifies the essence of Janmashtami. Perhaps we think, oh, I'll try to fast. I'll say the Abhishek. I'll enjoy a nice feast at midnight. But consider Janmashtami from the point of view of Devaki, from whose womb Krishna appeared. The spirit of Janmashtami is to invite Krishna to appear in our own life within the womb of our consciousness. And in order for Krishna to appear within the womb of our consciousness, we have to become like Devaki. We have to be willing to become selfless servants of the Lord. And that is the meaning of bhakti. Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport to the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, nor is Krishna to be understood by persons who officially go to the temple to offer worship. They make their visit, but they cannot understand Krishna as he is. Krishna can only be understood through the path of devotional service as explained by Krishna in 1153. So when we come to the temple, Krishna reveals himself as we approach him. If we approach him for some fun, we'll get some fun and we'll get a little purified. But we should really come to the temple to fully utilize our human form of life. If we only have a few minutes to live, you may think, what? A few minutes? We may think, what? A few minutes? I have so many years. Well, at this point in life, there's many of us, we know we don't have a few years. And at the same time, no, we're still going on as if maybe we do. all our lives pass in what appears to be a few minutes. But think back, if you look at your life, it appears like everything has passed in just a few minutes. As we grow older, our lives go faster and faster and faster. So how to utilize these precious few moments? So when we come to the temple, it should be in the consciousness of Devaki, illustrated by her life. We should be coming in the consciousness of Krishna and Krishna's devotees. I'm coming to offer my service to you, Krishna, and your devotees. And when we are chanting the holy name, we are chanting as an offering of service for the pleasure of the Lord and for the pleasure of the Lord's devotees. And when we sit to hear class, we should not simply be thinking, yes, I enjoyed the class today. People say that, oh, it was a great class today. Oh, what was it that you felt was great? And I don't know. I just liked it. Or I wish this class would hurry up and end. I'm hungry. I have so much to do today. Or why is this person giving class? We should willingly sacrifice this precious time as an offering to Krishna by offering our ears and our mind, our intelligence, our heart to hear his transcendental glories for his pleasure and for the pleasure of the devotees. So each one of us, when attentive, we contribute to the sanctity of the atmosphere, which purifies everyone else. And when our mind is wandering and roaming and dancing from place to place, we create subtle distractions in the atmosphere. When you're sitting, we sit in the temple with our stupid smartphones. I mean, because you can get the text and the verses, it's useful. But there are people who are not getting the text and the verses, they're texting and sending emails. They're telling Krishna and his devotees that they have minus zero interest in him. They're not so important. Even if you are like that, it's better you stay. Actually, in New Vrindavan, there's a class, and there was this one devotee who was trying to look really attentive, but it is the camera, it's just automatic, so it goes down. And he had his phone out, so I was expecting to see the verse, but he was texting to somebody. I was thinking, oh my goodness, Hare Krishna, you're sitting right there in front of Prabhupada, because he was, in front of the speaker, in front of the Bhagavatam, and anyway. But when we do that, it just indicates our disinterest. So if we really want to offer sincere service as sincerely as possible, then we open our hearts and our ears and we try to listen, not because it's fun, but as an offering of loving service to Krishna and his devotees. Krishna doesn't need our money. He wants our love. He doesn't need our foolish intelligence. He does not need our wonderful managerial capacity or our administrative acumen. He doesn't need our influence. He has everything, but he wants our love. And these are simply forms by which we can develop and express our love for him. And that is the real spirit of Janmashtami. When we're willing to dedicate our lives for the pleasure of Krishna, in the service of Krishna and his devotees, then we've captured the great lesson of Devaki and Janmashtami, and it will hold a significant meaning in our life. Then Janmashtami won't be just another social function. It will be an experience of spiritual enrichment. And for us, for the devotees, Janmashtami is a day of service, to take part in kirtan, to take part in the pravashan, to take part in helping make the festival a most wonderful day for the pleasure of Krishna. So this great movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, directed by and given to us by his divine grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our Acharya, offers us the opportunity of preaching the message of Krishna. And Krishna says in Gita that the devotees who reveal the science of Krishna consciousness to others is most dear to me. So together, this is our mission, to create an atmosphere to attract people to see the beauty of Krishna, to take his prasad, to take Srila Prabhupada's books and understand the goal of life. And in so doing, we please Lord Krishna and his devotees and his divine grace, Srila Prabhupada. So thank you very much for letting me just say a few words about Janmashtami.
Hare Krishna, Mother, thank you so much for speaking this particular verse, understanding that we are in the second half of Lord Brahma's life, and also bringing in Krishna Janmashtami, which is just 2 days away.
Yeah, just a few moments away.
A few moments away, yes, actually less than two days. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, realizations, you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand. And you will be asked to unmute to ask your question or share your reflections. Hare Krishna. I have one quick question.
Yeah.
My Guru Dev, Spectator Swami Maharaj, had mentioned to us, especially those of us from West Africa, quite a few times that he would want to establish ISKCON in West Africa in such a way that if in 100 years' time, someone would want to know exactly how Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON, they will come to West Africa and find that standard. Now, it's a challenge to us as disciples and well-wishers to try to do that. We are attempting to do that, but the reason I'm saying this is because I would like to know from you, since you were part of the early devotees, how Janmashtami was observed and how Janmashtami fasting was broken. Some temples say that on Janmashtami day, when you break the fast, no grains. Other temples say you can eat grain. So
well, that's not what Shastra says, and it is not in keeping with the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Now, of course, as devotees, we follow Srila Prabhupada. Other people who come just as itinerant guests, they are not obliged, but we, as his followers, are obliged to follow his instructions if we, as his followers, want to make spiritual advancement. And there was been a lot of, research on this in, oops, I can't remember the Purana. Anyway, there is strong evidence from Puranas that the break fast on Janmashtami and on all Vishnu Tattva, just like the other day was Balaram appearance, we had a feast, a Ekadashi feast, no grains. That was the standard. The very first, so it would have been the first Janmashtami in ISKCON was at 1966 in New York. I wasn't there, but that was occasioned by the first initiation in ISKCON. And then on Radhasmi was the second initiation in ISKCON. And at that point, there might not have been as strict observances. Similarly, even on the third Janmashtami. So we were told to fast. We knew that much, but it wasn't clear the intricacies. On the 4th, it was the same, and I was there with Srila Prabhupada in Montreal. We were on our way to UK. So again, it wasn't strictly without grains, but following that, and in writing, Srila Prabhupada gave the instructions that the breakfast of Janmashtami would be an Ekadashi feast, and the next day, which would be the Nanda, the festival of Nanda Maharaj. On that day, you have an opulent feast with grains. Of course, we have to fast again until noon. So then our opulent feast will be with grains will be incredibly welcomed.
Well, that's interesting to know because I had heard of this all incarnations of Vishnu Tattvas, but my understanding was and still is that even though Lord Krishna, Devaki Nandana, Nanda Nandana Yashoda Nandana Krishna, is Vishnu Tattva, but he is the source of Vishnu. In the case of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came as a devotee and he himself instructed that on Ekadashi day, on his appearance day is Ekadashi preparation. He himself observed Ekadashi.
Yes.
This is why I was thinking, and in fact, some temples too, I think you were saying that there's been some studies done on this, but it's good hearing from you what Srila Prabhupada's instruction was on observing Krishna Janmashtami. So thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else with something to ask or to share, please?
Yeah. Otherwise, I wish every one of you a deeply satisfying experience in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead on the occasion of his Janmashtami, his appearance. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Oh, Mother, there is one hand up. Do you have time to take his question or comments? Shimamara Prabhu, please you may unmute while Mother is still here.
Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisance. All glory to Krishna Prabhu. All glory to the assembled devotees. Thank you very much, Mata. There is this controversy about Krishna's birth. Of course, it was no controversy following Prabhupada's instruction, Prabhupada's book. Even this morning, we just read it. Prabhupada wrote clearly, Krishna instructed Vasudev to go and take the daughter that was born to Yasoda. But then we have devotees from India giving Krishna Katha about Krishna birth, saying that Yasoda gave birth to twins.
She gave birth to what?
And,
to
they
twins.
said that Yasoda gave birth to twins. But when you read Krishna book, again and again, it is mentioned Yasoda gave birth to a girl, go and take that girl. So,
you have to decide, your name is Varaha Acharya. You have to decide which Acharya you're going to follow. Because there's always so many versions of this or that. So best you stick to Prabhupada's version and try to understand it. Prabhupada said we should discuss things threadbare, because as you become more advanced, which obviously if you're reading and chanting and following the regulations, you will get deeper and deeper realizations. So, it's just like as the day progresses from morning, like it's dark and then the sun comes up, you start things more clear until it's broad daylight. So we need to get that broad daylight of Lord Krishna in our minds and hearts, where we can see things and understand things fully. Otherwise, we're in a, we have somewhat of a cloud over our eyes due to the impurities that may still be existing in our hearts.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, thank you very much. We have to decide what to follow.
If you want to get confused, just start listening to everybody and anybody.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And
Yes.
sometimes it's a simple thing. It's like a simple word. And I had this experience the other day because a person who I greatly respect, and I quoted something he had said, and he used the word womb. Actually, he should have used the word heart. So then, and I didn't catch that immediately. And it's like when Yasoda picked up Balaram and put her on the lap, he felt, he felt Lord Krishna from the heart of Devaki. But the person said the womb. And that created a misunderstanding. So then I went back and I started finding, so I found the person, I found where his sources were, and I said, oh, it's the wrong word. It should be heart. And when I reported that back, it's, oh, now it was understandable. So sometimes there is a misunderstanding in the wording of just one word, and it can throw things off. Srila Prabhupada, 1967, told us if one person comes and changes even one word of which I have taught you, the whole thing will be ruined.
Yeah.
So it's really important to have the correct terminology. And it's also important to keep chanting and hearing in the association with devotees and trying to understand as much as possible the words of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, brother.
People-
Yeah. It's very, in fact, Shivavara Prabhu, you actually read my mind, because that was a question I wanted to ask. But sometimes questions I asked just for other people and people in general to have a clearer understanding. As much as we possibly can, we know that Srila Prabhupada is the gold standard. And if somebody said something similar to what Srila Prabhupada said, then we'll compare to what Srila Prabhupada said. And at the end of the day, Srila Prabhupada's statement reigns. So thank you so much, Madam Malati. Before we went on live, we understood that you had some emergency situation to
Yeah, I
attend.
wanted to ask for the prayers. I
Yeah.
have a cousin. His name is Michael Bourne, and he's in imminent departure. He might have already departed during this meeting, but Michael Bourne, he's in California, and very gentle, sweethearted person who met with a great adversity at a young age due to a car crash and never became bitter or he became greatly disabled, but he never became an embittered soul, and he had accepted Christ into his life. And I had just one moment. I had visited a few years ago, brought him prasadam, which he happily honored. So if you could just remember Michael Bourne, Jerry, I'm getting the name. Jerry's the other brother. Jerry is the one who's giving me the information. So remember Michael Bourne at this time, and pray to Krishna for his transition to be successful.
Oh, Krishna.
So thank you very much. I do
Thank
have
you.
to
Thank you so much, Mother, for being here with us and also sharing this difficult situation with us all. Devotees, of course, most of the time we do not consider ourselves devotees, but we are all devotees, and we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves. And just as Mother requested the prayers of the devotees, we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is towards the swift transition of Michael Bourne. And please, you may all unmute, and we do that while we pray, cry out to the Lord for the swift transition of this soul. Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna.
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama,
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 Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare. Sampacha,
Kripa Devacha. Na Bhagavani Vaishnavi Namo Namaha.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
All glories to Her Grace Mother Malati Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
All glories to
Jai.
Saman Vaishnava Vaishnavi devotees.
Jai.
And glories to Michael
Jai.
God.
Jai.
Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare